The nail in the coffin may finally be here for remote work as companies like Zoom, Blue Origin, and even the White House order employees to come back to the office. Plus, Disney decides to raise streaming rates for Disney Plus and Hulu, despite most of their content being horrible. Those topics and more on this episode of Today in Tech. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. The man behind those glowing screens is Chris. Hello, Chris.
Hey, how's it going?
Let's talk about some news. Everybody, back to work. Any doubts that companies have had about trying to get employees back into an office setting should be eliminated with the announcement by Zoom. Yes, Zoom announcing that they, quote, see value in staffers working with their teams in person and that they would begin requiring people who live near its offices to work on site 2 days a week. Quote, we believe that a structured hybrid approach, meaning employees that live near an office need to be on site 2 days a week to interact with their teams, is most effective for Zoom, a spokeswoman said in a statement. Additionally, we will continue to hire the best talent regardless of location. All right. This was the company that invented or that benefited most from remote work during the pandemic. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. Their stocks went through the roof.
Yeah. And so if Zoom, a company that's known for remote teleconferencing and video conferencing, suddenly decides that they see value in hybrid work. They didn't do a 5 day a week mandate. If they had done that, then it would be game over, right? So at least they're jumping from remote to hybrid. They're at least asking 2 days or mandating 2 days.
Right.
There used to be this well-known phrase in the tech industry of companies that would pitch you their products. And one of the things they always said was, well, we eat our own dog food. And eventually it got so overused that people started changing because the thought of eating dog food is kind of gross. Mm-hmm. So they started using other phrases like, we use the equipment that we're trying to sell. And that makes sense. If you're a company and you're trying to pitch them a product, I hope that you're using the product. For Zoom now, for them to come back and say, well, we want in-person meetings. I mean, that's not a great look for Zoom, but it's also reflecting this need for people to get back in the office.
Yeah, I think people need to see each other. They need to socialize and interact. But here's the thing. I think with this situation, you're going to have two sides. You're going to have the people that don't want to return to work, who don't like to, people who don't like to interact with one another and they just want to put their head down and work. And then there's going to be the other side where, people need to be able to be in physical meetings and interact with one another and kind of do that type of teamwork and stuff like that. So you're going to have both sides. So I definitely think there should be a middle. Don't you think there should be a middle?
I think there was always going to be a middle. What was amazing to me was to see both sides forcefully trying to defend their own position. And it's almost like a political battle.
It is.
Where you have left versus right or right versus left, where either side of an argument will pull data that supports their argument. And so and they refuse to acknowledge the other side. Yeah, so I see that being set up here as well. Stats come out about productivity in the office versus productivity out of the office. We've talked about this on the show dozens and dozens of times. We were talking about how people were taking their breaks. Remember that discussion?
Right.
Yeah.
But now there's data showing the opposite, that now the work from home is having a negative effect. I don't know if it was this article or another one, but it's data showing the contrary.
Every time I see data about this phenomenon or the remote work versus hybrid work versus in office, I just have to decide what angle are they trying to sell me or what position are they taking, because there's that old cliche by, I think is it Mark Twain? We can get, I don't even know, this is going to be horrible, but you can basically manipulate statistics to whatever, support whatever position you want.
Right.
Something like, 105% of statistics are made up, or I don't know what the phrase is. I'll have to go look it up.
Well, statistics can be relative to time.
Yeah.
Right. So if you just show a certain part of your stats in a confined timeline, it might look good. But then if you put that against, say, the last 2 years, it might look horrible. So it's how
Yeah.
you frame it,
Yeah.
how you frame the data.
Of course, of course. I still think, man, my key position on this is the real reason is because companies are losing a lot of money in empty office spaces. And it appears that they would be looked on as cold-hearted if they just came out and admitted it to their employees that said, look, we want you back in the office because we're wasting a lot of time and spending a lot of money on empty offices and empty office furniture and all this stuff. And we've got this great office and we hate the fact that it's empty. But instead they go, oh, productivity and collaboration. And you get all of these softer skill type things. I'm still going to die on that hill, I think.
I still think that is in large part issue. I'll say, okay, maybe half of it is,
75%
is the real estate.
75% is the real estate.
40% real estate. 60% because I think companies are actually seeing a hit in their productivity. No, really. And is it this article or the next one?
Oh, you're not going to throw numbers at me, Chris?
No, I'm serious, yeah. And not only that, but the psychological, sociological, right? I mean, we're going to talk about that in the next.
Well, we're going to talk about
articles,
another aspect of the remote work, hybrid work thing.
Yeah.
But I wanted to jump to the federal government, which admitted.
But hold on one second.
All right, hold on. Okay, go ahead.
I just want to say, like, my standing on this issue is I think people should meet in the middle. Businesses and the employees meet in the middle. If they can't get everyone back in the office, then at least 3 days have to be in the office, Monday and Friday off. Or 4 days in the office and you have Friday off. Hey, everybody, you don't work Fridays.
Off. You still can. No, you're still working Friday in theory.
No, but I'm going back to the 4 day
work week.
Yeah. But there should be some sort of compromise. If not fully back in the office.
I'm surprised I got you to move because I think you were always on that 5 day back in the office.
I mean, that would be awesome. That would be awesome.
I know you wouldn't mind it.
I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah.
Because again, it would be part of my job to come here to work with other teams, right?
Yeah.
And other people, right? I find it harder to do remotely.
Yes.
That's me.
That's the nature of your position too, where we've got this nice studio behind us and I prefer this than I would never be in favor of having a video with me at home over Zoom with someone else.
Right.
Because that just reminds you too much of a really bad Zoom meeting. At least with this, we have the appearance of
it's more engaging. Like I'm talking to you right in front of me, right? It's more interactive.
I'm just happy that you're sort of moving back to the middle. I was always a proponent of the hybrid work environment, of the compromise. I don't think you should have a 5-day remote work approach. You do need to come into the office. It's just a matter of what day. In fact, I want to change my days that I'm coming into the office because Tuesday is now the busiest day of the commuting week.
Yeah.
It now takes me, a full hour to 90 minutes to get here from where I live.
Right.
And this week we had a lot of rain and that slowed me down even more.
Right.
I would rather, if no one's going to be in the office on Monday and Wednesday, I should be like, I'll go in Monday, Wednesday.
Right. Well,
or Monday, Friday almost to sort of counteract that commuting nightmare.
Right. Well, the reason why I've kind of eased up on the 5 days is I don't know if it's like a coming down to earth kind of thing, but like how are you going to get people? How are we going to get people back into the office 5 days a week? How? Realistically, how is that going to work out?
You have to you can't, you either entice them with either extra money or we'll pay for your gas money. We'll pay for, or we'll have free lunches every day.
Well, the thing is, we never used to do that.
We'll even have more candy in the candy dishes.
We never used to do that. We'll have
right? Let's see, massages at 3 p.m. every afternoon. Wellness, we'll call it wellness. What's video game, ping pong tables, all that stuff in Silicon Valley that the best. Oh, the wine bar. Remember the vending machine, the wine on tap.
Yeah,
let's just do that.
Yeah,
that'll get some people. Get them all drunk before you send them home on the commute.
Hey, if they can implement in-office daycare, come in here 5 days a week.
Seriously,
come in here 5 days a week. 5 days a week, hands down. I have a daughter. I would come here, drop her off, go to work.
Yeah.
Then go to the gym, pick her up, go home.
You're suffering through
Solved.
the cost of daycare at the moment.
Oh yeah, it's brutal.
I'm beyond that. I'm now looking at the cost of college. And that's even more frightening, Chris. Let me tell you. The next issue is still the same. The federal government is now saying the quiet part out loud. Okay, so the feds are now taking a tougher approach to work from home policies. Earlier this month, a government report found that billions of dollars were being wasted on barely used government offices.
Do I have that article?
There it is. No, I didn't. Oh, it's no.
Oh, that's fine. It's fine.
It's basically a picture of an empty office if you wanted to look at it.
But I mean, thinking about like federal offices, the federal government's like, I think from their perspective, working from home, having all of your employees work from home, wouldn't that be kind of a security issue?
Oh, I'm sure there was
what I
probably
mean?
some security issues that were going on there. Basically, this was the result of Michael Bloomberg writing some sort of memo to someone as an op-ed, and he basically said, especially if you're a federal agency that has public-facing duties, and if they were working at home, you were like, wait, you're paying all this money, and they're a monopoly on some certain services, and you can't, as a public member, go and interact with government.
Yeah.
Because they're working at home. So the White House Chief of Staff, his name is Jeff Zients, wrote a memo to federal agency heads that they needed to bring government workers back into the office. Quote, "This is a priority of the president, and I'm looking to each of you to aggressively execute this shift in September and October." Let's not do it now. Let's wait till the summer's over. So I can only imagine the commute in September and October for a lot of people is about to go. It's going to get really bad for those people that are still commuting a lot. So talking about this as well, there's a Computer World article. Bring this one up. This was another one written by our pal Lucas Marion, who covers this issue for Computer World. There was a Gartner report talking about that hybrid work is now entering the trough of disillusionment. For those that have followed the tech industry, Gartner is known for any type of technology that goes through a lot of hype. They go through this hype cycle, and that first curve up that's all the hype. And then you get to a part in the middle there where it's peak, and then you see this decline in interest of the technology, and they call that the trough of disillusionment.
So this is a hype graph.
This is
measuring
graph.
hype.
And then eventually they say interest returns, and you sort of then plateau out. And of course, then that becomes mainstream and part of everyday life or whatever, or it dies completely.
Yeah.
Like there's not a guarantee that you're ever going to get acceptance. I think the metaverse right now is probably at that bottom part of the trough of disillusionment.
Negative 100.
Yeah. So this is for hybrid work. And I don't know if you can you zoom in a little bit more so I can read some of these, or I'll just go on mine. A lot of the technologies that they're talking about here, I've never even heard of some of these things. These are all different, probably software tools or processes.
Employee journey map.
HR virtual assistants, influencer network, digital adoption platforms, smart hybrid office, empathy-based management. Some of this gives me chills. Only because I'm not a fan of HR departments.
You kind of need a employee dictionary.
You need a conversion translator type thing to understand what the corporate speak on some of these things are.
Virtually facilitated social connections.
Employee well-being solutions. Virtually facilitated social connections. That sounds interesting.
Indoor location for people tracking.
I want to know what workforce nudge tech is. That's on the left. If you just go to the left a little bit. You see the thing with the yellow triangle right there?
Yeah.
Workforce nudge tech.
Wow.
That sounds interesting or horrible.
Up on the top, radical flexibility.
So within the story that Lucas was talking about, he did provide new data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, which showed that productivity has slumped slightly since the end of the COVID-19 pandemic emergency, which was declared earlier this year. Quote, "Over the previous 12 months, the number of employees working in a hybrid way has steadily increased, while the number of employees who work only at home or only in the office has decreased. Hybrid work is now entering the trough of disillusionment for everyone." So in the meantime, Jeff Bezos, who runs Blue Origin, well, he's used to run Amazon, still is Amazon, I think the chairman. The Blue Origin company, they are trying to build the spaceship tourist thing to go out into space. They might be doing some moon stuff too. There was a leaked email that demanded that workers return to their offices 5 days a week.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of companies that aren't even willing to allow for hybrid work, which I think is amazing. Because again, it does feel like that's what's going to come into the middle.
I mean, look, if companies want to hire 5 days a week, and you're looking for a job, and you find this company in there, and you're like, well, I don't want to go in 5 days a week. Well, then look for a different company.
I also wonder
for a different job.
I also wonder if people are realizing that maybe the Great Resignation, that coined phrase about people just trying to find new jobs.
Yeah. It's going back to
finally
normal.
over. It's going back to normal, or will this trigger a new wave of resignations from people?
Vacation's over.
Summer's over, people. That's my Boston accent for you. All right. But then you see stories like this next one that I want to talk about. And then if you're a boss or a company owner, you go, of course, this is why we want people back in the office. So a major insurance company used keystroke technology on an employee's work laptop to test whether she was working her designated hours, and it ended terribly for her. The Fair Work Commission, this is in Australia, has rejected an unfair dismissal application brought by former Insurance Australia Group consultant Susie Chico, finding she was fired for a, quote, valid reason of misconduct. According to the commission's published findings, Chico was responsible for creating insurance documents, meeting regulatory timelines, and this is my emphasis, monitoring work from home compliance. According, among other roles. She was subject to a detailed review of cyber activity, which analyzed the number of times she physically pressed her keyboard on 49 working days from last October to December. The review found she did not work her rostered hours for 44 days, started late on 47 days, finished early on 29 days, and performed 0 hours of work on 4 days. On the days that she did log in, she had, quote, very low keystroke activity and recorded 0 strokes over 117 hours in October, 143 hours in November, and 60 hours in December. She averaged 54 strokes per hour over the duration of her surveillance, which showed she was not presented for work and performing work as required. Now, this story went viral. Apparently, this woman put this stuff out on TikTok as well. She's now claiming that she had some mental health issues, so you can't completely feel horrible for her in some ways, because then you're insensitive if you sort of make fun of her for that.
Yeah.
She's now also, there was another follow-up story that says she probably can't get hired by anybody because she's now so famous for being the face of the person that wasn't working at home.
Oh, she'll get hired easily.
You think so?
Probably.
I don't know. There was a quote in here. Oh, so when she was having a discussion with her boss about all of this, or whatever hearing it was, this was a quote that I think that you would enjoy. Quote, I mean, I may go to the shops from time to time, but that is not for the entire day. I need to take some time to consider this, and I will put forward a response. Then she couldn't really recall why or how the number is that low. So, is the bigger issue the fact that the company was deploying this type of technology to monitor employees? Because it does feel that you're completely not trusting any of your employees if you're doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both. I mean, that's kind of freaky, to have the application watch your keystrokes. Granted, yeah, it's all, it's vague. The data's vague. There's no identifiers with keystrokes. All it's getting is you're pressing a button, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's pulling which letter on the keyboard you're pressing, but there's no identifiable data coming from it, I think. Just my 2 cents. But yeah, it's kind of freaky.
Yeah,
it's kind of freaky. But
for example,
okay.
you and I are doing this podcast right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not clicking any of my keyboard.
Right. I'm pressing buttons on a controller right now.
I'm using a mouse to scroll. I'm clicking on some things to get to the next story. But for the most part, out of this 45-minute show, it's if there was someone monitoring me right now, it would show no activity.
Yeah.
But you and I both agree that we're working.
Right.
So a defense can be, hey, I was doing something that didn't require a lot of keystrokes. Right. I don't think that this is the case in this. I think she probably got caught doing, not being around.
Right.
But what's interesting is that this is not the only company that has this type of software. And the reason I know this is because there's a sub-industry of devices out there to try to fool the software. If you go to the next slide, this is the Amazon. If you go to Amazon right now and click on the term, I think it's mouse. What is it? Mouse jiggler? No, undetectable mouse mover device. Mouse mover device undetectable, which comes up in when you're just typing mouse mover, it comes up. $24, $10, $30, $17.
11,000 views. I mean, 11,000 likes, whatever, buyers.
And this is a USB device you can plug into your computer, and it'll simulate a mouse movement, so the cursor movement, to indicate that you're working when you're not really when you're not really working. I love that they call these mouse jigglers.
Yeah.
And that's now going to become a term. I also feel that if you're spending the time and the money to get a device to pretend that you're working, that you might have bigger issues, and you might want to start looking for a job.
Time for a new job
where you don't have to use this.
I mean,
that should be a trigger, right?
Yeah.
If I'm like, I hate my job, they've got this software that's monitoring me, I want to take a nap while I'm working at home.
Yeah.
Let me go spend $30
right
on a mouse jiggler.
I just don't like the idea of being monitored like that.
Right.
Like, okay, well, here's the thing. I can see, so here's the thing. With our job, right, we're doing video, we do podcasts, right?
Among other things.
Among other things, right. But for the most part, we'll spend an hour and a half a day doing this, talking here, creating content for the channel. After that, it's more like housekeeping stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's not that much. It's not that much, but we are, in fact, working. It's just the grunt of our work is this, the actual recording of this.
Yeah.
So like, I would say like if you're in like a financial institution or something, if you're covering the stock market, right? If you're like some sort of compliance advisor, right? Or maybe you're in a law firm, they might want to track your activity when you're working remote because the business that you're dealing is very sensitive. You know what I'm saying? So I can understand it, but also at the same time, not like it.
I think that this was put, at least in this one case, this was put in probably because a manager suspected that someone was not doing their work, and they figured out, well, we'll install this on her system to see and then have proof before they fired her.
But if you're suspecting if you're a manager and you're suspecting someone's maybe, like performing poorly, right? Wouldn't the ideal thing to do would be to meet with that person in person and talk about it one-on-one and see if there's ways that they could help instead of snooping on keystrokes and then, you're fired.
I think that the point of them installing it was probably after they went through these other steps.
You're right.
But there's a lot of companies that do these things called, personal information plan or performance, they call them PIPs.
Right.
If you get to that point, then at that point you're going to get fired down the line because they're just starting to collect data so that they can justify firing you.
Yeah, actually, you're right. Let me walk that back.
Yeah.
There was a section in there where she already got met with by her manager and got put under like some sort of warning, basically a warning. So
what I don't know in this case, in this particular case, was whether they told the employee that they were going to put the software on. I would be really annoyed as an employee if I found out that a company was monitoring me without my knowledge. Because then it does feel like an invasion of privacy. Like, what if they actually turned on your webcam during work hours, just to see if you were in front of the screen doing what you're supposed to be doing.
I mean, maybe that's why they resorted to just keystrokes.
I just want to say, for the record, I do wear clothes when I'm working at home.
Right.
But I have heard many stories of people that work in their pajamas or work, without sort of dressing up. I don't dress up. I still have a t-shirt and shorts when I'm at home. It's the summer, or my hoodies.
Yeah.
But I've heard stories of people that forget that they are wearing that, and then they get on a Zoom call. It's like, oh man.
But look, I can understand.
But if they did that and were monitoring me without my knowledge, that's a little untrustworthy.
I understand it, but at the same time, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Two things can be
true at once. Yes. Yeah, two things can be true at the same time. Okay. So I hope that this lady finds a job. and that she's learned if she really was, not working, that she knows that she should probably work more.
Yeah.
So, and at the same time, companies should make sure that I don't even know if they should use this as a last resort.
No, but that's just the argument to get people back into the office, right? If you have to resort to using keystrokes, well, wouldn't it be easier to just have everybody in the office? Then you can, just walk by.
Yes, you can watch to see if they're working.
Hey, what you doing? Are you working? Okay, cool. Just do that. And it's like,
and then that's
all you got to do.
It's like that scene in Office Space where the boss comes and goes, "Hey, what are you doing? How's it going? Can you work on the weekend?"
Right.
And we're back into that situation. All right. One thing that this woman doesn't have to worry about is the fact that there's now AI that can steal your data by listening to your keystrokes, and it's got 95% accuracy. Whew. All right. A team from several British universities has trained an AI to accurately predict your key inputs via a microphone. This means anything that you type on a keyboard, including passwords, private messages, company secrets, even potentially classified material, could be leaked to a third party. The deep learning model is able to train itself by recording the minute differences in various keystrokes. The waveforms of the sounds each key produces are then used to predict what is being typed with very, very scary accuracy. The researchers used a MacBook Pro for typing while recording audio from a nearby iPhone and perhaps most disturbingly via a Zoom call. So it's not just your own security that you need to be responsible for. You'll need everyone else on your call to be conscious of it as well. It was interesting that each keystroke, I think they did the keys 0 to 9 and they did the letters. So they did not, I think part of the difficulties were the shift key and probably some of the other specialty keys that are on the keyboard. They did this really just, so each key apparently makes a different acoustic sound. You probably can't hear it.
Yeah.
It sounds the same to the human ear, but when you have a microphone, when you use algorithms and whatever waveforms that happen every time you press a key, they did find some very, very small details, and then they could figure out what people were typing. Very scary that it was this accurate. And so when I was reading the research paper about it, what I was more interested in was some of the solutions. So one of the questions I had when I was reading this, well, I'm a touch typist versus there's a lot of people that just sort of do the hunt and peck style. And touch typing, keystroke recognition was reduced from 64% to 40%. So good for me for learning how to touch type. I'm very happy that I did that. But it still might not be high enough accuracy to account for complex input featuring the shift key, backspace, and other non-alphanumeric keys. Additionally, a change in typing style may be implemented alongside mitigation techniques presented in other papers that does not require any software or hardware components. So to battle against this, like let's say that this attack gets developed into something that either spies or someone else might be interested in. The first thing I thought was, well, start using randomized passwords featuring multiple cases, because if it can't detect the shift key, then it wouldn't tell if you're doing a capital A or a small A. Other things that they were talking about was countermeasures that included adding additional sounds, playing sounds over a speaker near the broadcasting microphone and mixing sounds into the transmitted audio locally. So putting like white noise or music or other types of things. The best thing was to do was actually create fake keystrokes. So instead of listening to music or white noise, when you're typing, just add sounds of other typing. Or other keystrokes, and then the system can't tell whether it's a fake keystroke or it's almost like adding gibberish to your password. It's almost like encrypting it. I just figured I was going to just do this when I was typing. La 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 la. You can't hear me. I'm typing, and it's the secret password. So maybe that's what we have to do when we're typing in a password now. Is just to blab on like an idiot. So,
I'll remember that.
Yes. The fake keystrokes, I think, were more effective than the white noise because apparently there are white noise removal algorithms. Who knew? Again, artificial intelligence is getting more and more dangerous. And as researchers continue to find ways to just be evil, it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got no comments on that?
I mean, regulate AI.
But the bad guys don't need to be regulated.
I
You
know,
that.
I know.
The bad
Yeah,
guys
the
don't
bad
care
guys
if you're
will-
regulating it.
We'll get their hands on AI no matter what.
Right.
But,
All right. 2 more stories I want to talk about.
Okay.
All right. This is relatively new. For the second time in about a year, Disney has announced major price increases to its streaming products, raising the cost of the ad-free versions of Disney Plus and Hulu by more than 20% each. The price increases and pledge to address account sharing come as the company earlier Wednesday said its streaming business lost far less money in the latest quarter than it did in previous periods, but reported that Disney Plus streaming service lost domestic subscribers for the second quarter in a row. The company also raised prices on its Hulu Live television package and announced the launch of a new bundle. Basically, the price is going up for everything. Disney Plus, when it launched, cost $6.99 a month, and now it's going to be $13.99 a month. And the ad-free Hulu service will rise from $18 to $18 from $14.99. So it's now going to be the most expensive option, even when compared to Netflix or the Max, which used to be HBO Max. Meanwhile, their content stinks.
Well, they're not wrong when Bob Iger says they are new. They're new to the streaming scene.
Yeah.
Basically, because, I mean, you go on Disney and there's kind of nothing there other than the classics,
Yeah, and even when Disney Plus came out, my kids were of a certain age. They're now teenagers, but when it came out, they were still into some of the Disney programming. It wasn't necessarily all of the Disney movies. It was the fact that they had Marvel and the fact that they had Star Wars, and then they had The Simpsons. Those were the 3 big IP brands for me and my family. And since then, Marvel has gone down the tubes for a lot of their content. I still have not seen
garbage.
The last 2 TV series. I have not watched at all. Secret Invasion, I didn't watch at all.
Same here.
I didn't watch Miss Marvel at all. I think the last one I may have watched was She-Hulk, and that was panned. I didn't, when the movies come out and onto the platform, so I did watch Quantum Mania and did not like it.
It was a letdown.
It was a letdown. The Star Wars stuff, never finished season 3 of The Mandalorian. There's a lot of content that I could be watching that I just don't have the energy or the time and I'm probably going to cancel it now. If they're going to raise the price on me, I'm going to cancel it. I did ask my family what streaming services I need to cancel, and I had a little poll, and they all picked different things. It was annoying.
Yeah,
so I'm just going to drop it, and then if something does come on the platform that I want to watch, I'll resubscribe, and then I'll just be of that. I'm going to watch it for a month, and then I'm going to cancel, and then just do it that way, because all of these companies are moving back. They want that bundle cable service approach where they can charge you more money and not have to provide as much content.
I would be totally fine with the increase if they were putting quality original content, especially when they have IPs like that, Star Wars, Marvel, Disney, and what are you putting out? Garbage.
Yeah,
Garbage.
And again, it's not like there's other alternatives. I can go back and go to my DVD cabinet and grab all the DVDs that I was buying all along. Luckily, I saved all of them. I feel bad for the people that took their DVDs and it's all on streaming. So, don't get locked into any service. Don't get locked into any kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you can,
I mean, I think we had Hulu. We had Disney. We had Hulu, Disney, HBO Max, Netflix, Apple TV. If I haven't mentioned already, we already got rid of Hulu, Apple. And I think all we have left is HBO, Netflix, and Amazon. Because
I'm never getting rid of Amazon. I've discussed this on the show. I can't. My wife likes the free shipping, especially when the holidays are about to come up, and that's how she does most of her online shopping now.
Right.
And so in her mind, she's getting a benefit, even though the cost is passed along in some other ways.
It's weird because
so we have Amazon, Disney Plus, Netflix, I think, and then a Peacock because it's got wrestling for my son.
Right.
So speaking of Peacock, I just want to throw another thing out there. The Super Mario Brothers movie is now streaming on Peacock. I did not see it when it came out in the theaters. I think it was in March or February this year. And you saw that it made like $1 billion really quickly, right?
Yeah.
Did you see the movie?
No.
It is horrible.
Is it?
It is awful.
'Cause
I wasted 90 minutes of my life last night watching that.
we're talking about the Mario movie.
The Super Mario Brothers movies, the one with Chris Pratt doing Mario, and all of the and I went onto IMDb and was like, I'm reading these reviews. They're like, oh, this is great. 10. And I think it was a lot of older people that remembered the horrible movie from the 80s, and they were just happy that it wasn't that.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
But the writing in this was lazy. The dialogue was horrible. It was almost like I could predict what the next line was going to be because it was so cliched and generic and just even the voice acting was uninspired.
Yeah.
Oh, I was getting mad watching the movie. Like that's how bad. And again, I'm not a big Nintendo guy. I've played the games. I love Mario Kart. I'm not good at it anymore, but I get a lot of the references, but most of the movie felt like we're doing fan service to, hey, here's our little Easter egg for the Mike Tyson Punch-Out game. And here's a little, oh, look, Mario's jumping around like the video game, which had nothing to do with the plot. And the plot was basic. Oh, the thing that really got to me was that I started tracking how many times in the movie they said Mamma Mia. And it was at least 5 times.
Yeah, I mean, this. I feel like this is a topic for a whole other episode because
in terms of the decline of Hollywood content.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It's a lot of the movies and TV shows are just garbage coming out. The last movie I saw in the theaters that was amazing, and I sat through the whole thing.
Barbie, right?
Oppenheimer. Oh. Barbie? No. Oppenheimer. That was an experience. And that's the thing. There's no more experiences. Movies used to be an experience.
Yeah.
Now it's just, copy, paste, bland writing. I understand the Writers Guild is on a strike, but at the same time, I'm like, well, if you write better content, or if you write better scripts and screenplays, maybe, you wouldn't be in the situation. But like, I don't want to get into it.
I know. I've pushed a hot button for you.
Yeah.
Because we talk about this in between our few moments of when we're actually working. During our work breaks, we talk about film, or when we go to lunch together, we have film and content, Hollywood discussions.
Right.
I just can't believe how bad that movie was. All right, let's talk about our final topic, which was, we've covered this on the show as well in terms of the electric vehicle movement and the push to try to get people to buy EVs. There was a story in the U.S. version of the British Sun newspaper website. I'm not a big fan of this website, but this shows you that there was some research that says 20% of drivers who buy electric vehicles are returning to gas-powered cars. And this was based on research from people at the University of California, Davis. They discovered more than 4,000 households who own or previously owned EVs in California. They ended up going back to gas and diesel cars. The study looked for reasons for the switch and found some obvious ones. Basically, they said, quote, "We show that discontinuance is related to dissatisfaction with the convenience of charging. Other issues were increased energy household consumption for those who charge their vehicles at their homes. Apparently, more female EV owners are returning their vehicles more than men, and companies are households that have multiple vehicles in their home, so multi-home or multi-vehicle homes.
Right.
So they're finding that the EV is not the primary vehicle in the house because things we've talked about with long road trips and things like that, like you can't have one vehicle. So they use the EV for commuting, but they were finding dissatisfaction. But it was the first two. It was the first two issues that we've been talking about: the availability and the convenience of charging, which there's not unless you own a Tesla.
Well, again,
that's in the headline there.
Yeah. But I also think, again, what would the effect be on cost when you're charging from home?
Right. They
Because
also
they
found
make
that it
it-
costs. Yeah, they make it seem like when you're recharging your vehicle at home that it's free
It's not going to cost anything.
and that it won't cost anything, but that's not true.
yeah.
You have to pay for electricity, whether it's powering your toaster or whether it's powering your Tesla or your EV. And you found a YouTube video, right? That talked about how much power these things are drawing.
Right. Well, so
So set this up for
yeah,
us.
let me break that down. So, I mean, everybody follows Marky Brownlee,
Yep.
Marcus Brownlee, however you say his name, MKBHD. And recently he had the Tesla shingles, solar panel shingles installed on his house. I always thought it's a great idea. That's a great idea. Instead of using asphalt shingles, just make them little solar panels. So he had them installed, and when you get this installed on your house, you also get the monitoring app. You can monitor your input from the sun. You know,
How much energy
you're
you're
getting from
drawing
the
in.
sun,
Yep.
and how much energy you're using. And so he broke this down. I don't have audio on it, but you'll kind of see. He kind of breaks down like, you know, a light bulb is, you know, this many watts, microwave is this many watts, and so on and so on. So this is what he found. OLED TV, 100 watts.
Yep.
Computer, 300, 500, totally. That's easily, I mean, mine's probably like 800 watts.
Yeah, gaming ones are probably
Right.
high as well.
Running a GPU. Microwave, 1,000 watts.
Yep.
Okay. Toaster, yep, you're heating a metal element.
Yep.
It's gonna... But he found other ones.
The two biggest ones were
HVAC, 5,000 watts.
Yep, so your AC unit.
So hold on, let me pause right here. So right now, in our household, that is probably the biggest electrical power draw is our HVAC unit.
Yep.
My house, probably your house too, when you run your ACs.
I have in window ACs. We don't have central air,
Yeah.
so I'm probably drawing a lot. I don't know. If
Maybe
I found out how much I was, I'd probably be really depressed. But at any given moment, we've got probably 3 to 4 air conditioners running.
Right. So maybe 1,000, maybe 1,000. I don't know. I'm not an electrician.
Yeah, I don't-
I'm not into that stuff. But
Yeah.
anyways, he continues. HVAC unit, 5,000 watt.
Car charger,
Car charger,
12,000. Wow.
12,000.
Yeah.
12,000. That's insane.
And so the most ways to make that economical for most people would be to have have the solar panels.
you have to have
because then you're
solar
at least
panels.
getting free energy from the sun in theory, right?
Right.
But the cost to install this is pretty big for this guy. Like, how much was the solar panels? How much did they cost?
So in total, it was. Hold on, let me find it real quick. I can pull it up. I believe it was 120,000. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, here we go. Hold on, I got an ad going. 3 seconds. We'll be with you in 3 seconds.
Discuss this amongst yourselves.
Yeah, look at that.
There you go. 120,000.
Solar roof plus the power wall. Okay. Granted, he has a pretty big roof. I mean, he's got a big house.
Those YouTubers, man.
$120,000. Federal tax credit, 28,000.
So you're 90,000 something.
I mean, when you're in that range, the 28,000 is not that big of a deal. When you're spending 100,000+.
Well, he's probably I don't think he wrote a check. He
Whatever.
probably financed it.
Yeah,
a
whatever.
little
Okay,
bit.
net cost 92. Okay, so
Yeah.
92, 100K.
And that used to
Wow.
be the cost of a house 40 years ago in some areas.
Back in the day.
Back in the day when you walked to school uphill both ways.
Jeez.
I've
and
tried,
that's
you
the
know-
thing is, I don't think people are realizing, like, yeah, when you plug it in at home, it's not going to be
When
free.
we bought our house,
Your electricity bill is going to go up.
Yeah.
And then the cost of electricity is going to go up because now you're pulling 3 times as much on the electrical grid.
And the more people that then start doing this, the rates will go up even higher.
Wait, we want everybody to drive EVs?
Oh yeah, there's a big push. You haven't heard? There's a big push
So
for
it's
people.
12,000 watts per house.
Yep.
Given.
Yep.
Base point.
Yep.
Forget the toaster, the microwave, your TV,
Yep.
your 500 watt computer.
Yep.
12,000 starting out every house. How?
Yep. And let's I don't want to get political. most of the infrastructure grid that's pulling power for your home is still based on fossil fuels and coal and oil, and there's and there's not a lot of discussion about going nuclear, which they should be talking about, but you don't want to get political about it.
Right.
But the fact is that these costs are going to go up as usage goes up. And how are you going to get the energy? I still think that people think that energy is free.
Right.
The solar panels are good for that house, good for him that he was getting 29,000 kilowatts.
I think so, yeah.
But there are homes. My home, when I bought my home, I wasn't thinking at all about solar. So when we had people come in and look at it, they were like, "Well, you could probably get about 50% of what you should be getting, because the house isn't aligned in the right direction." Or I'd have to cut down a bunch of trees to try to get to that point. Most of the solar panels, if you are facing in a southwest direction from where I live, that's where you're going to get a benefit. So I tie into a solar farm, so I am sort of getting a discount, but I don't know. I think this is a continuation of I bought a house that is old and it doesn't have electricity, so we've stopped vacuuming in that one side of the house. Yeah. But again, I found it interesting from that article that people are giving up their EVs for the reasons that we've talked about on this show. I don't want to make it appear that I'm anti-EV, because I'm not.
I mean, hey, if they can...
I think a structured hybrid approach is probably the best step, rather than going in one direction or the other. And this brings us back to hybrid work.
Yeah, and that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah.
But I do think, I'm for EVs in certain applications. But if anything, if we want to think more about EVs, well, think about the grid.
Yeah.
You got to start at the bottom. And I think there still is the challenge of, well, how do you put solar farms? You got to build solar farms. Where are we going to have the space to do that? I think there's situations.
Well,
there's issues they still need to figure out.
You start to see in areas around Massachusetts where we live. Yeah. There's a solar farm on one of those interchanges in Framingham. You see patches of land near highways that aren't being used for anything else, and so you start seeing solar farms there. There's a solar farm across the street from my little neighborhood. It's on a hill. It's got a lot of coverage. They had to cut down a lot of trees to get to it and create it. But it was areas that they were never going to develop homes on because it's so rocky underneath.
Yeah.
So you would have to excavate way too much more to make it worthwhile for a house. But you can pop a solar farm on there and get some sunlight there. So anyway, I think that we're a little far beyond our initial technology discussion. All right. Thanks for checking in with us on the news, Chris.
Yeah, no problem.
That's all the time we have for today's episode. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, add any thoughts that you have below in the comments. Join us every week for new episodes of Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Thanks for watching.